And now he's become the traveler of the worlds. He's going to explore these different levels. There are 15 cantos, but many of the cantos have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or more levels in them. So there's not only 15 levels, there are many, many more. So,
is it the biggest book?
It's the longest book here. Yeah. And one which was never in his original plan for the poem. He wrote an early version of the poem in 1916, and almost everything is there. But the book 2 is not there, and book 7 is not there. These are the 2 things he added later on. It's very interesting that in that first version of just, I think, just over 2,000 lines, actually the whole outline of the whole poem is there, except book 2 and book 7.
It was 308 pages. 308 pages, the whole book.
Book 2. Yeah, and when we get to the end of book 1, book 2, book 3, then we're in the middle. That's half the poem. Yes. Okay, so let's make a start. The World-Stair. So he's broken into another space and time. He's not in our universe. He's in another universe. Alone he moved, watched by the infinity around him and the unknowable above. All could be seen that shuns the mortal eye. All could be known the mind has never grasped. All could be done, no mortal will can dare. A limitless movement filled a limitless peace. In a profound existence beyond earth's, parent or kin to our ideas and dreams, where space is a vast experiment of the soul, in an immaterial substance linked to ours in a deep oneness of all things that are, the universe of the unknown arose. A self-creation without end or pause revealed the grandeurs of the infinite. It flung into the hazards of its play a million moods, a myriad energies. The world shapes that are fancies of its truth, and the formulas of the freedom of its force. It poured into the ever-stable flux, a Bacchic rapture and revel of ideas, a passion and motion of everlastingness. There rose unborn into the unchanging surge thoughts that abide in their deathless consequence, words that immortal last, though fallen mute, acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense. Lines that convey the inexpressible. The eternal stillness saw in unmoved joy his universal power at work, display in plots of pain and dramas of delight, the wonder and beauty of her will to be. All, even pain, was the soul's pleasure. Here all experience was a single plan, the thousandfold expression of the One. All came at once into his single view. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. He was one spirit with that immensity. Images in a supernal consciousness, embodying the unborn who never dies. The structured visions of the cosmic self, alive with the touch of being's eternity, looked at him like form-bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable. Aspects of being donned world outline. Forms that open moving doors on things divine became familiar to his hourly sight. The symbols of the Spirit's reality, the living bodies of the bodiless, grew near to him, his daily associates. The exhaustless seeings of the unsleeping mind, letterings of its contact with the invisible, surrounded him with countless pointing signs. The voices of 1,000 realms of life missioned to him her mighty messages. Shall we start here, Ravi? You read the first sentence, please.
Canto One The World-Stair. Alone he moved towards by the infinity around him and the unknowable above. All could be seen that shuns the mortal eye. All could be known the mind has never grasped. All could be done no mortal will can bear.
Thank you. The words are not difficult. No? Are there any words you don't know the meaning of? All could be seen that shuns the mortal eye. To shun means to turn away from, to reject. No? So it seems there are seen things which don't allow themselves to be seen by our physical eyes, our mortal eyes, which, because they belong to a material body, must die eventually. There, everything could be known that the mind has never grasped. So he's using another power than mind. All could be done. No mortal will can dare. As long as we are physical beings, subject to death and ignorance, our will is simply not strong enough to dare some of the things that can be done in those subtle worlds. Then there comes a single line. It's interesting, Sri Aurobindo writes in kind of paragraphs, shorter or longer, and often there's just a single line which could belong either to the one before or the one after. So we could read this line: a limitless movement filled a limitless peace. It can go with what we read before, no? But it can also be an introduction to what comes next.
It is known as epigram.
It's not exactly an epigram, no. An epigram is a kind of witty saying which compresses different ideas together.
Panditji collected this as epigrams in Savitri.
He uses this word for lines like this, and also for those headings which Sri Aurobindo puts for the life divine. You can look up epigram in the dictionary and you tell us next time what it says. Yeah? Poonam.
A limitless movement filled a limitless peace. In a profound existence beyond Earth's parent, all cling to our ideas and dreams, where space is a vast experiment of the soul. In an immaterial substance linked to ours, in a deep oneness of all things that are, the universe of the unknown arose.
So the universe of the unknown, unknown to us, no? Arose in a profound existence, a deep, subtle existence beyond this material earth that we know. But that profound existence is parent or kin to our ideas and dreams. Either it gives birth to them, or it's very closely connected with them. Our kin are our close relatives. So that profound existence, although it's beyond the earth, still it gives rise to our dreams and hopes and ideas, or at least it is closely related to them. And in that profound existence, space is a vast experiment of the soul. What does it suggest to you?
Chidambaram.
Chidambaram? Why?
Chit is the space. Baram is space. Chit is consciousness.
Yes,
So it reminds
that
you-
conscious space, it makes you think of that. Thank you.
Space, in Tamil we say veli.
Sorry?
Space. In Tamil we say veli. Veli.
That means universal space. Yes. So, you know, it is a very interesting thing. 𝐂𝐍𝐵Indo refers again and again in the poem to space being conscious. And here he says it's an experiment of the soul, the extension of the soul into infinite space, no? But now there are physicists who say that they've come to the conclusion that our universal space, our material space, which we think of as a vacuum, that this whole universe must actually be conscious and self-organizing. Just one or two people have come to this conclusion. That's nice that the scientists are beginning to wake up to new truths.
Something like ether, same thing, and they don't accept ether anymore.
Well, the physicists, the human physicists, tried to detect ether. And the experiments that they used convinced them that no, it doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that their instruments couldn't detect it. 𝐂𝐍𝐵Indo repeatedly says that ether exists. But ether is perhaps the subtlest, least substantial kind of substance. It might be close to consciousness. So there's it says that immaterial substance of that universe, it's immaterial, it's not what we would call matter, but it is linked to ours because there's a deep oneness connecting everything that exists, whether it's in the material universe or in the subtle universe, everything is connected. So it's in that oneness that this universe of the unknown rises up in front of Asvapati's eyes. Come now.
A self-creation without end or cause, revealed the grandeurs of the infinite. It found into the hazards of its play. A million moods are myriad energies. The world shapes the dark fantasies of its truth, at the formulas of the freedom of its force.
Yes. So it's something that's creating itself. It's limitless, there's no boundary or end to it, and it doesn't pause, it just goes on and on and on, creating itself or out of itself, and all that it creates reveal the grandeurs, when we look out into our universe, now there are these wonderful photographs from the Hubble telescope. We can see them on our television screens, and they are really grandiose, no? They're on such a vast scale and amazingly subtle colors and forms, inspiring forms. So the infinite, the limitless, holds so many grandeurs. And this self-creation is playing. It's doing all this for delight. And into its play, as if by chance, just to see what will happen, it flings a million moods, a myriad energies. A million, it's also a symbolic number. It doesn't mean only 1 million. There can be millions and millions, a million. Different moods, different ways of being and behaving and feeling, and a myriad energies. Myriad means so many that nobody can possibly count. Uncountable energies are just thrown into this play just to see what will happen. Among them are the world shapes. Perhaps there are different world shapes. These world shapes that are fancies of its truth. So this self-creation is ruled and guided by its own svadharma, its own truth. But that truth expresses itself lightheartedly in fancies. But it also has formulas. Formulas are like recipes that tell you how to create, to bring about a particular result. There are formulas, but ruling the formulas is the total freedom of this force, the force that is manifesting all this. Sarojini.
It's poured into the ever-stables, clothes, a basic capture and reveal of ideas, a passion and motion of
Everlastingness. Everlasting, we know it's an adjective. No, it describes a state. We want to turn it into a noun. We can say everlastingness. There's a quality of everlastingness. So it's also pouring into this play. The poet says that this play, this self-creation, is a flux, it's a flow. But it's a flow of the ever stable. Something that's stable is firm and poised. But perhaps we can have a flow that is so harmonious, it never gets disturbed or troubled. It's always, perhaps in a great river, there's something like that. So it pours into that flow a Bacchic rapture and revel of ideas. So we came across this word Bacchic several times before. It refers to the Roman god of wine. And the grape from which we make wine, it's connected with Ananda. And wine intoxicates us. So this Greek and Roman gods of wine, they're associated with divine intoxication, when you lose yourself in a kind of rapture. So that kind of rapture of divine delight is being poured into that flow, along with a revel, a celebration, a happy play of ideas, and these are ideas with a capital I. So these are creative ideas that will give rise to many different forms. So along with the Bhakic rapture and the revel of ideas is being poured a passion and motion of everlastingness. A passion, intense feeling, and a movement, but it's all full of everlastingness. There's no end to any of it. Rita, you'd read? Yeah.
There rose unborn into the unchanging surge thoughts that abide in their deathless consequence, words that immortal last, though fallen mute, acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense, lines that convey the inexpressible.
So, into this flux, this flow, we can also think of it as a surge, a great wave of unchangingness. No? Into that great wave rise up things that are not born, they've always been there, but they come up into the flux, into the flow. These are thoughts that last because they have consequences, deathless consequences. The consequences of those thoughts go on and on and on and on. And there are words. Words are spoken, but these words last. They go on having a lasting effect, even though nobody hears them anymore. But they've been spoken. Their vibrations will go on having an effect. And there are acts. Acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense, its meaning which doesn't get expressed in a sound or a word, but that meaning gets expressed in an action. I don't know whether you can imagine that.
It's very difficult. The sentences seems to be very difficult.
What they're suggesting. I'm remembering when I think of these acts that bring out from silence its dumb sense, I'm thinking that once when I was in Mother's room, you know, we had to wait behind her chair and then we would go around. There would be a line going around. And I was at the back, maybe I'd just come through the door, and Mother, sitting in her chair, she made a gesture with her hand. She didn't say anything, but she made very, very clear what she wanted to say. So it was an act that brought out from the silence. She didn't make a sound, but she indicated her meaning perfectly. It was so moving to see that this was not a physical substance like this. It was like that hand was pure consciousness. So beautiful. So something like that. Acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense. The sense is not expressed in any kind of sound, but by an action that has consequences, that has an intention and consequences. And then the last thing is lines that convey the inexpressible, meanings that can't be expressed, and yet they do get conveyed, communicated somehow through these lines. So if we just see this line of Savitri by itself, we might think that all these here, these 24,000 lines, they're all conveying the inexpressible. But I think in the context, if we look at it, he means lines. Lines that an artist might draw. These lines appear in the universe, and they are communicating something that can't be expressed in any other way.
Here, like, was it hieroglyphic?
Hieroglyphics. Yeah, but they are a bit more, they're more symbolic. But a gifted artist like the mother, if we look at her sketches, just in a line, she conveys the inexpressible. It's a great gift that artists have, to catch an idea, a meaning, from a subtle world, a world of consciousness, and by a movement of the hand to put it on paper so that other people can see it. So
It's all finite and infinite.
all together.
Yeah.
Yes.
The difference between ineffable and inexpressible are the same.
The meaning is very similar, but ineffable. I mean, there's nothing effable. There's no such word as effable. But ineffable suggests something which is beyond all expression. It's not only that you can't put it into words. Dana.
The eternal correct.
Yes.
The eternal stillness saw in unmoved joy. His universal power at work displayed in plots of pain and dramas of delight. The wonder and beauty of the will to be.
Yes. So this is the silent eternal in his stillness, as Purusha perhaps. He experiences joy, but he's not moved by that joy. It just enters his pure being and he experiences it. And what he is, the joy he's feeling is at watching his universal power, the mother. She's at work. She's displaying all the wonderful things that she can do. And she displays them in the form of dramas. A drama has a plot, a storyline. Some of them are plots of pain, and some of them are dramas of delight. He enjoys them all. And what she's expressing is the wonder and beauty of her will to be, to exist, and to be more and more and more and more.
Who is she?
She, this is his power. This is the mother. No? There's the eternal, the Lord, and there's his executive force, the mother, she. I don't know. It is like this in the Indian tradition, no? That the Lord is still and unmoving, and he conveys to her somehow what he wants to be done, and she's the executrix. His force works everything out, his dynamic force. She gives birth to everything. Suresh.
All even flame was the soul pleasure here. Here all experience was our single plan. The thousandfold expression of the one.
Yes. So everything in this universe brings delight to the soul, pleasure to the soul, even pain. We think that it's somehow perverted to enjoy pain, but Aurobindo explains about these different rasas and how the different flavors can be enjoyed. So if you are immortal, deathless, forever free, perhaps even pain, what would be pain for us, can be a pleasure for the soul because it grows in experience. No?
And the single plan, it's in context of what?
All the experience of that universe, it's all built on a single plan. It all has one purpose, one aim, one source. What is it? The thousandfold expression of the one. The whole universe and everything that moves and happens there, it only has this single purpose: to express in as many different ways as possible the one, the supreme, the soul existence. This thousandfold, we can talk about hundredfold or tenfold or manifold. Gangalakshmi.
All came at once into a single view. Nothing escaped his vast, intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel a skin. He was one spirit with that immensity.
So this he here is Asvapati. This whole huge universe and its thousandfold expression, he can see it all at once. Nothing escapes his vast intuitive sight. And nothing can approach him which he doesn't feel as close and familiar to him, because he's identified with that immensity. It's all part of himself. He's seeing it all at once. Lela.
Images in supernal consciousness embodying the unborn never dies. The structured visions of the following self arrive with the touch of being's eternity. Looked at him like form-bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable.
So what he sees there are the structured visions of the cosmic self, the universal self seeing itself or projecting its own visions in the form of images in a supernal consciousness. Supernal, yes. What is supernal? It's like it's above everything.
Superior.
More than superior, absolutely superior. Above everything. And those images are embodying the one, the unborn, who never dies. So he sees those structured visions of the cosmic self, but they are not just images. First he said images, no, but these are images in a supernal consciousness. But they are alive, they're fully alive, because they have this touch of the eternity of pure existence, of being. And they look at him, there's as if there's a communication. He sees them and they see him. And they look at him like spiritual thoughts which have taken on a particular form to become images. And they are figuring, representing the movements of that ineffable, about whom we can't say anything except that he's ineffable. Will you read?
The space of being, those offline forms, open, holy, those actives, divine, 𝐂𝐀𝐕𝐈𝐋 is all size. The series of the space here, the living bodies of bodies.
Yes. So this is Asvapati's experience. He sees whole aspects of being, of existence. They are aspects of existence, but they express themselves, they put on, as we might put on a dress, outlines of worlds. He sees forms. Those forms are so wonderful. It's as if they, when we see them, they open a moving door on something divine. Those things become familiar. He sees them every hour. No? The symbols, all of these forms are symbols of the Spirit's reality. But apart from those symbols of the Spirit's reality, there are his own living bodies, the bodiless, the one, the supreme, the unborn who never dies. He also inhabits living bodies. Those living bodies grew near to Asvapati. They were his daily associates and comrades.
Shraddhavan, I have a question. When you tell the living body of the bodiless, who near to him is very associated. The body and the bodiless, the bodiless grow, the body, mortal body. No?
The bodiless doesn't need any body. He's beyond all such limitations. But that bodiless one may choose to inhabit a form or express himself in a body. No? So those bodies become familiar to Asvapati. Yeah?
And the living bodies grew near to him and became his daily associate.
Right, yes. Alice.
The exhaustless scenes of the unsleeping mind. Letterings of his contact with the invisible surrounded him with countless pointing signs. The voices of 1,000 realms of life missioned to him her mighty messages.
Thank you. So here it is interesting that we have the bodies and the mind and the life in 3 successive sentences. They must be connected, no? There are these living bodies of the bodiless, but there's this unsleeping mind, this supreme mind that doesn't need to rest. And it goes on seeing and seeing and seeing and seeing, and those things which it sees have a certain reality. And he says that those seeings are letterings. It's as if they are letters representing the contacts of that exhaustless, that unsleeping mind with the invisible world. The mind can see things which are not visible to the eyes, no, to the physical eyes. So they're exhaustless, there's inexhaustible, go on forever, those seeings of the unsleeping mind. They are letterings, signs corresponding to the contacts of that mind with the invisible. And Asvapati sees them. They surround him with countless pointing signs. Each of them indicates something. And then there are the voices of 1,000 realms of life. So many, many, many different realms of life. But those voices are all reaching Asvapati. They are sending to him life's mighty messages. Here, he, her, this is life's mighty messages. Mission, it means you send something to somebody. So the voices of 1,000 realms of life, mission to him, to Asvapati, the mighty messages, life's mighty messages. Yes, Gangalakshmi.
It's very interesting when we tell unsleeping mind. This morning I listened the Chamber of the Mother 1964. The Mother expressed the experience in the night, and she tells my mind not sleeping, and I see my body sleeping.
But the mind doesn't sleep.
But he expressed, he developed the experience. It's very, very interesting.
You know, in fairy stories, often we have these 3 brothers. And their father, the king, gives them a mission. And the eldest son, says, yes, I'll do it. I'll stay up all night and see who's stealing your apples. But he can't. He falls asleep. And then the second brother says, I'll do it, I can do it. But he can't, he falls asleep. It's only the youngest brother, he's the one who can stay awake and catch the thief. And that's the mind. The body falls asleep, the life gets tired, but the mind can become unsleeping. Not just our ordinary minds. My mind falls asleep at the slightest provocation, but the yogic mind can become unsleeping. So we'll stop there for today. Shall we? Yes.
I have difficulties to imagine 1,000 realms of life. I can imagine 10.
Yes. Right. But I think these numbers also are symbolic. 10 is a symbolic number, 100 is a symbolic number, 1,000, million, these.
Spirit, it was only 1,000-fold expressions.
Yeah. Yeah, million realms of life. But if you think of a whole universe, how can there be any limit? There are thousands. Shall we read these lines together?
Yeah.
Alone he moved, watched by the infinity around him and the unknowable above. All could be seen that shuns the mortal eye. All could be known the mind has never grasped. All could be done no mortal will can dare. A limitless movement filled a limitless peace. In a profound existence beyond earth's, parent or kin to our ideas and dreams, where space is a vast experiment of the soul, in an immaterial substance linked to ours, in a deep oneness of all things that are, the universe of the unknown arose. A self-creation without end or pause revealed the grandeurs of the infinite. It flung into the hazards of its play a million moods, a myriad energies, the world shapes that are fancies of its truth, and the formulas of the freedom of its force. It poured into the ever-stable's flux, a Bacchic rapture and revel of ideas, a passion and motion of everlastingness. There rose unborn into the unchanging surge thoughts that abide in their deathless consequence, words that immortal last, though fallen mute, acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense, lines that convey the inexpressible. The eternal stillness saw in unmoved joy his universal power at work, display in plots of pain and dramas of delight the wonder and beauty of her will to be. All, even pain, was the soul's pleasure here. Here, all experience was a single plan, the thousandfold expression of the One. All came at once into his single view. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. He was one spirit with that immensity. Images in a supernal consciousness, embodying the unborn who never dies, the structured visions of the cosmic self, alive with the touch of being's eternity, looked at him like form-bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable. Aspects of being donned world outline, forms that open moving doors on things divine, became familiar to his hourly sight. The symbols of the Spirit's reality, the living bodies of the bodiless, grew near to him, his daily associates. The exhaustless seeing of the unsleeping mind, letterings of its contact with the invisible, surrounded him with countless pointing signs. The voices of 1,000 realms of life missioned to him her mighty messages.